everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we force our friends to watch movies we absolutely love and then sit silently by as they rip them apart. This week, we are doing Chicago. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Austin.
And we are watching a pick chosen by Austin, and it is Chicago. I'm super excited about it. I have to say I was a little nervous at first, but ended up being very, very stoked.
Oh, that's awesome.
I really didn't know what to expect. Maybe Austin, you can tell us why you love this movie first.
Yeah, sure. I will just open with I just saw a spider crawl into my closet and now I can't find it. So
oh God, run! Set it on fire, Austin! Go! Go!
Right. You just have to move now, like move houses.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, that's another episode. Goodbye.
So if I scream at any point,
oh, I don't know how you can
why.
sit there. Okay,
it's not easy to move. So
you are brave.
Yeah, I like to think so. Okay, so yeah, Chicago. This was my pick. I don't really have that much of a history, honestly, with this movie. I saw it. I didn't see it in theaters. I must have rented it on DVD. I own it. So I definitely watched it a handful of times as a teenager. I played the show when I lived in Montreal. I got to play drums for it, so that was really fun. So it's just always been a musical that I know decently well, but I'm more familiar with the movie than with the Broadway productions. And just kind of as I've watched more musical adaptations in movie form, I've realized that Chicago is kind of like the peak. As far as I'm concerned, it's the best adaptation of a musical, and it's a really good movie in my opinion. And I mean, I wasn't the only one who thought so, because it did win best picture, so I guess it's got something going for it. But what about you guys? What are your histories with it?
Yeah, so I saw Chicago probably when it was fairly new, not in theaters, but I'm a huge Oscars nerd, so I try to watch all the movies every year, and I used to throw Oscar parties and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure I saw Chicago because it won Best Picture, and I felt like I had to go out and rent it and watch it. And I'm really glad you picked this movie, Austin, because I feel like it's going to clear up a misconception that I hate musicals. I don't hate musicals. I just hate bad movies. Chicago's a good movie.
That's fair.
Interesting. Yeah. I thought you were going to say, I just hate what Austin likes.
No, I mean, she's picked really bad movies so far, so that's not my fault. But, Chicago's a good one.
Whew. Gloves are coming off. It's minute 2 of the podcast. I'll tell you that I think I must have watched a 3 to 7 minute segment of this movie on television, which probably then had a commercial break and I was out, because I don't remember any of what happened in this movie.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, my summary is I think it's a pretty good guess, but I missed out on every single bit of subtext. I missed out on half of the side plots that are happening. I really, this was almost a brand new experience, and it was a rip-roaring good time.
Oh, I'm so happy. You guys, honestly, I never thought I would have any movie. I didn't think I'd bring any movie to the table that all three of us liked, so this is encouraging.
I don't know how, honestly, anyone could not like it. It's such a spectacle. It is a feast for the eyes and the ears. It's so fun. I enjoyed every second of it.
Yay! I'm so happy.
Surprising.
Yeah. Should I give a little bit, or could I give a little bit of background information on it? Because I think that for me anyway, it made the movie watching experience a little more interesting. Because, like I said, I was more familiar with the movie than I was with the stage version. But just so you guys know a little bit about where it came from, it's based on a 1975 musical directed by Bob Fosse, music and lyrics by John Kander and Frank Ebb. It ran until 1977. And then there was a revival that started in 1996, and it is still playing. So it is a very popular show. What I think makes the musical really interesting, and then what makes the movie such an accomplishment, is that it's a concept musical. So That's probably, I don't know if this was remotely interesting to you guys, but it is to me. So basically, concept musicals are shows that are based more on a theme or an idea. It's not necessarily super plot driven. They can have varying levels of plot, and like Chicago has a pretty concrete plot, but all the production numbers in the original show were these like big vaudeville numbers. The revival kind of toned it down, but the movie was really able to take aspects of both and combine it in a really cool way. So that's just sort of my background information. Originally, I was Cheetah Rivera as Velma and Gwen Verdon as Roxy. That's all I got, really. On I'm sure more information will come up. I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork.
While you're laying the groundwork, do you want to give us like a quick rundown of the plot?
Totally.
Do you want us to give our guesses before you give the plot? I don't know, Jen, did you do a guess?
I didn't do a guess just because I've seen this a few times, so like I knew the plot pretty well, but if you want to give your guess.
Okay. I think it was pretty spot on. I said, a woman kills someone and goes to jail in, you guessed it, Chicago. She takes over inside the jail and runs a business and makes friends and gets famous. So, kinda, right? Except for the business part. But she pretty much takes over inside jail. That was my main takeaway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not totally far off. It's essentially that. Roxy commits murder, she kills her lover, ends up in jail in Chicago, and she meets Velma, who's also in jail for murdering her husband and his lover, which is also her sister. And Velma's kind of sitting on top of this like empire, and Roxy kind of usurps that a little bit. They both want to be famous and kind of get famous, but realize that it's very fleeting. And the press and the public, their attention moves very quickly on to the next.
That's perfect. I really love how they keep calling them murderesses.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It sounds so vaudevillian. The murderesses row. Amazing.
One thing that's also kind of cool is this is actually based on a true story. It was originally a play from 1926 written by Maureen Dallas Watkins, who was a crime reporter. It was based on the actual murder case of Beulah Anand, who shot her lover. It's kind of just her life story. And the author was just really upset with the way people were clamoring to these murderesses, and they would often they would not be found guilty, they'd be acquitted. And so it's just kind of interesting. I didn't realize that it was based on a somewhat true story.
That is cool.
Was this Beulah person, was she also like a performer like Roxy's trying to be? Like, did she become a singer afterwards?
That I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, but I do know that a lot of the characters are kind of based on famous vaudeville performers. Kind of just some of their personalities or some of their performances were drawn on famous performers. And obviously, a lot of the musical numbers are taken from kind of staple vaudevillian performances, like the ventriloquist act and the sad clown and things like that. But yeah, Beulah's attorneys painted her as a naive, lonely woman, and so it kind of follows along tracks the Roxy storyline.
Cool, that's really interesting. Yeah, I had no idea it was any kind of a real story at all.
Yeah, me too. I didn't really believe that there was... If the movie portrays it like there's this rash of women murdering husbands kind of willy-nilly. Seemed that there was... Even the whole Cell Block Tango song's about women murdering their lovers and significant others. So I was wondering if there was a time when it kind of became the thing to do. Just shoot your husband and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like there was a fascination with the women who were accused of these crimes. So, I don't know, you learn something new every day.
I'm learning. The first thing I learned when this movie opened was Taye Diggs. So hot.
So hot.
Forgot about Taye Diggs, and then him playing a piano, he can get it.
Yeah. I mean, the movie opens with a really great scene. I mean, it's an iconic song, but even just the way they set up Velma and you kind of get the flashback or the flashing between Velma's performance of all that jazz and Roxy. And I don't know, I just think it's such a cool opening to a movie. It really sets the stage really well and just fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels to what she's doing on the stage and what Roxy's doing with Fred Casely.
Yeah.
Getting it. Speaking of. Now, I do want to know, this is a very superficial question, but did you guys have a problem with Velma's hair? Because I hated it. It's horrible. I hate that bob.
Oh, but it's like such a classic, like 20s kind of like flapper bob, you know?
I want to say yeah, for sure, but I hate it. I just hate it. When Catherine Zeta-Jones you first see her face, I was thinking that is such a disservice. Her face is so pretty, and then that stupid hair ruins it.
As a short hair enthusiast, I think it's great.
It didn't strike me as odd, but it is just to kind of hop in with some trivia right off the bat.
Do it.
She was originally supposed to have long hair, or like her natural long hair, but Catherine Zeta-Jones convinced them to let her wear a short bob cut because she didn't want to give anyone any excuse to say that she didn't do any of the dancing. She wanted to make it obvious that it was her, and she didn't want hair to be falling in her face so that someone could, make that argument.
Nice. Yeah, she's fantastic. I think I also may have seen somewhere that she trained as a dancer.
Yeah.
Like in her youth.
I think that was like her whole first career. Like that was where things were supposed to go for her.
Yeah, I actually looked this up because I was really curious because she absolutely fucking kills it in this movie. She's so amazing. So I was curious, why didn't she just do musicals forever? And I saw that she did start on the stage in London, which I had no idea. And then she turned into a movie star, obviously. But she also went back to theater in 2010 and she won a Tony, which is really impressive.
Yes, for A Little Night Music.
Yes. And then she did another movie musical in 2012, which is Rock of Ages, which I have not seen.
Oh, yeah. Do not watch. It is so bad.
I watched the trailer and I was like, I'm never going to put this on my eyeballs. But she did do another musical, which is what I was kind of trying to figure out because she's so good at this. She really could have.
I'm sorry. Oh,
I don't know.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I keep interrupting you, but now I'm stuck on Rock of Ages because it tried so hard. It's like an 80s hair band type musical, which would be exactly my jam.
Yeah.
But it has Tom Cruise in it.
Yeah.
But see, that makes it also very much my jam. I'm a Tom Cruise apologist. I've said it a million times. I love 80s dad rock. That trailer looked like torture. I will never watch that. Austin, don't make me watch that.
It has Julianne Hough and this other no-name guy, Diego something, and they're both so over the top. It's just painful to watch. It actually hurts your brain.
I've never actually seen it. I haven't exactly rushed out to it.
If we ever decide to make each other watch movies we actually hate, I'm going to make you watch Rock of Ages because it's horrible.
That is an interesting proposition, Jackie.
They also have Alec Baldwin singing, just so you know.
Oh, ew,
This is what you're getting into, so.
But that's what Catherine Zeta-Jones ended up doing, so it's not quite Chicago.
She's honestly so incredible in this movie, and especially when she's dancing at the end next to Renee Zellweger. She just looks effortless and graceful and perfect next to Renee Zellweger's spazzy kind of jerky over-the-top movements. I mean, she's good. Don't get me wrong. I think Renee Zellweger did a really great job in this too, but it's a disservice to her to put her next to Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, I think the one number where it's Catherine Zeta-Jones being like, oh, I do this, and then you do this, and she's just dancing two parts. I'm just like, this would be so boring or hard to watch, but she just pulls it off. She's just so good that you're just like, yes, then what happens?
See, this is the beauty of what happens when you cast people who can actually do the job in a movie musical.
Yeah, this has been your point all along.
This is my thesis statement of life, basically.
Can we talk about the cast in general? Because I think genuinely pretty much everyone did an amazing job.
Yeah, and it's surprising because, I wouldn't have pegged Richard Gere as someone that could pull off the character of Billy Flynn. But
he does a really good job. And he has that creepy kind of 20s tone in his voice that I think he did really well. Yeah, and especially when he's singing.
Kind of smarmy.
That's the exact word I was going to use, where he's part charming, part smarmy.
Yeah.
I also really love John C. Reilly. I think he's great in this movie.
Oh, me too.
He's perfect because you really pity him and you're kind of rooting for him, but you totally understand why he's so swept into the background of Roxy's life.
He's so pathetic and so beaten down.
And he just keeps getting beaten down further as the movie goes on. Poor bastard.
Yeah.
But he also was very talented. His singing and dancing was spot on too.
Yeah, and also not to steal Austin's trivia train, but I read that he did his own clown makeup for Mr. Cellophane because he's a clown makeup enthusiast.
Whoa.
Which
that just
is
made him
weird.
So creepy. I do not like that. Nightmares. Clown makeup enthusiast. I didn't realize that was a title you could have under your name.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how that works, if that's maybe just he did some performances in his youth and just knew how to do it, and the trivia world decided to call him an enthusiast.
But yeah, just in regards to the cast as well, then you got Queen Latifah coming in, crushing it.
Yeah.
I love her song. I have to say that as I watched this movie yesterday, and I was listening to the soundtrack at work today because it was that good. And When You're Good to Mama is just like the best song. It's so sassy. You gotta love it.
Yeah, it's great. I also, if we're shouting out the cast, I don't know if you guys are as excited about it as I am, but I do love Christine Baranski, who is Mary Sunshine.
Oh yeah,
I love her so much.
When you started to talk, I was like, oh no, was Bernadette Peters in this movie and I just didn't notice? But no, Christine Baranski, hell yes. Perfect. Underused criminally. She can sing, she can do anything. I guess there just wasn't a lot more she could have done. There wasn't much more space in this movie for Mary Sunshine, but she's so great. The one time she sings with Richard Gere, I was like, she can sing. What can't Christine Baranski do?
Nothing. There's nothing she can't do. This whole podcast is just going to be us going, and this is amazing, and this is amazing. It's going to be the shortest podcast of all time.
Yeah, so that's all we have to say. Sorry.
Goodbye. Well, I was going to say I didn't realize it until the end that Mary Sunshine was working with Richard Gere. He says something towards the end that about how he was using her to, and also during the ventriloquist ad, Mary Sunshine sings with him, like it's understandable, it's not reprehensible, etc. So that part I didn't understand, but she was, correct me if I'm wrong, but she was working with him. He was probably paying her, right?
I never got that impression. I think it was more along the lines of he knew how to work the press, and she's kind of portrayed as this sappy court reporter and very much in that world of like tabloids, and he knows how to kind of exploit that. I could be wrong, but
that kind of makes sense.
I saw it the same way as Austin, where I thought it was just that he was playing everyone, but she was the first card to fall, and then through that, she was able to get the rest of the press on board.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look up why I thought that again. I thought he said something in the end when he was explaining to Roxy about how he got her off with this whole creepy plan. I thought he said something about Mary Sunshine, but now that I've said it, you can just cut all that because apparently it makes no sense.
No.
Beep, boop,
well,
beep.
While we're on the topic of Mary Sunshine, this is one thing that they drastically changed from the show, is that typically Mary Sunshine is portrayed by a male performer in drag and who sings falsetto the whole time. And then during the courtroom scene, there's something along the line, I don't remember the specifics, but there's something along the lines of, and nothing is what it seems, and he like rips off her clothing to show that she's a man.
Oh my.
That wouldn't have gone over too well, I don't think, in the movie. Although Christine Baranski has said that she regrets taking a role away from a drag queen. So I guess they maybe could have done it without the reveal, and it just could have been a man in drag, and that's just what we accept.
Yeah, I guess, but the reveal sounds like it wouldn't have played well. And then if there was no reveal, I feel like it would, especially in 2002, it would be very distracting for audiences.
Yeah, they'd be waiting for the joke. They wouldn't understand that it's just a drag queen doing a job.
Yeah, I think it was at a time period where we weren't quite that like homophobic or transphobic, but we weren't progressive enough to be okay with a drag queen just existing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just working.
Yeah, that was just kind of an interesting major difference or major departure from the show.
Good choice made. Excellent choice. Another thing that I must say, this movie is so just beautiful. The scenes of them singing and dancing, I mean, they're obviously mostly, if not all, in Roxy's head. So they have this huge scale and grandeur that I love. But even when they're in jail and they're wearing all these like lingerie nighty outfits, the whole thing was so cool. It was just effortlessly cool. I'm like, I wish I had a reason to wear some kind of silk pajama set with a robe and flounce about, but I don't.
I mean, what is stopping you?
All of the things. Having those things, the desire to change clothes, my lifestyle, the fact that I just ate pizza, all of these things.
Oh, same. And I'm feeling it.
It was nan bread pizza. Thanks, Jen. Jen's a nan bread pizza chef. She's changed my life.
I should have charged you guys for that recipe.
This is not something I ever noticed about movies. I thought Austin would have something maybe to say about this. Don't want to put you on the spot, but the wardrobe was so great.
No, it was. I also love Velma's outfit when she shows up to court, when she's got that hat on and the big fur. it sets the scene so nicely, and well, what you were talking about, Jackie, about all the numbers being in Roxy's imagination, that's exactly it. And that was kind of what set everything out into motion, because for the longest time, so this, like I said, this musical came out in 75, and Bob Fosse had always kind of had the idea of making it into a movie, but no one really knew how to approach it. And then he died in 87, I want to say. Yeah, 1987. And so after he passed away, everyone just kind of assumed, well, that's, this isn't going to happen, kind of shelved it for the longest time. And then it wasn't until the late 90s when the Harvey Weinstein of it all comes into play, but he got a hold of the script and wanted, kind of push it forward again. And it wasn't until Rob Marshall came in and pitched the idea that all the numbers would take place in Roxy's imagination that everything kind of fell into place, and we went from there. So yeah, it absolutely works. And that's what I meant when I explained it so poorly at the beginning, but with the concept of Chicago on stage is that it's not clear whether everything's really happening, and all these numbers have these big vaudevillian performances, which if you just put out normally on a movie, like as in this is happening in real life, that's where people don't like musicals, right? That's like hard to get past for a lot of people. So by putting it all in her imagination, they're still able to go nuts and go wild on the production value, but it makes sense, especially when you compare it with what's actually happening in real life. Like I love all those intercut scenes.
Yeah, they were amazing, and they were so clear. I love when things are very clear for dumb people like me who are like, I don't understand what's happening in this movie. But the palette is so gray when she's in jail. And it's so vibrant when it's the music scenes and the dancing. It's so clear to me, which was great, because I got it right off the bat. There was no question for me about what's happening. Is this happening? People dancing in jail? I'm curious. It made perfect sense, and maybe that's my problem with musicals is I need them dumbed down a little bit more for me. Things need to make sense. I feel like I've been very... We've established this during the podcast that I need logic or else my brain explodes. So this, because there was no question about it, made me very happy and made me jump in headfirst and just appreciate it.
Yeah. I feel like trying to take something more conceptual and apply it to the screen, like that's really difficult. And I feel like it's easier to kind of get it when it's on stage, when it's in a musical, like you're here for this. But then, yeah, appealing to the masses and trying to make this thing work. Like, I don't know of a better way they could have done it.
Can I ask you what you guys thought of Renee Zellweger's performance?
I thought she was good. I don't think she was the highlight of the film.
I would agree.
Yeah, even though she is carrying the movie, she's obviously the star of this movie and has the most screen time. For some reason, she just didn't stand out to me. For me, it was Catherine Zeta-Jones. Same for you guys?
Yeah. I think Catherine Zeta-Jones is by far the best part. She's so good. Like, she's such a good singer, dancer, actor, like, the whole package. And I think also she does have kind of a bit of a benefit that Velma Kelly's such an interesting and charismatic character, too, that a lot of the time you feel more drawn to her, or maybe that's just me. Whereas Roxy sometimes, maybe because you're following her so much more, there's less kind of excitement when she's on screen.
Maybe. And Roxy is so clearly kind of dumb and vaguely annoying, and Velma just constantly has this stage presence. Like, she's never not on. You only see her charismatic stage presence and never the vulnerable person beneath, except for a hint during her I Can't Do It Alone. But even that, you respect it, at least, where Roxy's just a mess, fame-hungry, vicious, desperate person.
Yeah, she's definitely not a likable character. Like, she's so desperate to be famous that she's not exactly sympathetic. You're still kind of rooting for her because I think that's the conceit of the movie, but she's not likable in any sense. At least is my impression.
The only thing you like about her is that there's no limit to her ambition and what she will do to get what she wants. It's not necessarily a likable characteristic in a person, but you can respect it and admire it.
Yeah, and I also think we're supposed to be rooting for her because no one should just be, hung.
Oh man,
well,
that
yes,
actually that was really sad, P.S. Yeah, I wasn't expecting a lot of emotional depth right in the middle of this movie. But one thing that blew my mind as a novice musical watcher and as let's call me a Chicago virgin, was the cell block tango with the handkerchiefs being red, but then the Hungarian woman's being white.
I wanted to
she's always in this Yeah, she's always in that white spotlight. It's so smart.
Yeah, can we just talk about Cell Block Tango? Because I think the note
Yes.
I wrote down is like, Cell Block Tango is that bitch because it's just the fucking best song, best scene. It's so good.
It's amazing. I love
Right?
how I don't even know how I don't have anything intelligent to say. I love it.
I know, it's
The
like just sorry. We're all just trying to talk because we're so excited.
So excited. The intercuts, especially in that whole scene, are really great because they show these women looking so glamorous in these outfits and the way they can dance, and then they're all scuzzy and gross in jail, and
Yeah.
it's just very. The duality is beautiful. They really do a good job making these beautiful women look gross.
Yeah, and then actually having them tango with their victim. That's kind of a cool little. That's not in the
Yeah.
show, so that was a choice that
Oh,
Rob Marshall made.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly what happens in the show. Like I said, I haven't actually seen it, but I know they do carry around like portable kind of jail doors. That's kind of the shtick in that. But yeah, it's much more like individual, I think. So just to kind of incorporate the actual tango and like the handkerchiefs, that's so iconic.
Mhm.
Oh, really? So they do that on the stage too?
No, I don't think they do. I think that was from the movie. Yeah.
Iconic for the movie. Sorry.
It's a really good visual choice.
Right.
Definitely.
And the red and the white.
Yeah.
Well, when the white happens, it's such like a punch to the gut. Or at least it was for me.
And then it is also very cruel that it's the one who was innocent, who was not guilty, that is the one that ends up losing her appeal and is sentenced to death.
Yeah. I read that in the original production, the woman, Graciela Danielle, played that character. She's a very famous choreographer and dancer. Anyway, she played that character, and Bob Fosse never acknowledged her on the set, never did it, like, to the point where eventually she had to go up to him and be like, am I doing okay? Like, are you happy with my work? Like, what's going on? And he eventually admitted that he wanted her to feel completely isolated from everyone so that it would impact that character a bit more. I mean, Bob Fosse was a bit of a dick, but so
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's not what transferred over to the movie, but it's just that kind of idea of like complete isolation. You can't explain yourself. All you know how to say in English is not guilty. She was a scapegoat.
Yeah, I love the way that they needed that visual cue to show you that she really was not guilty. Because people say,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, I'm not guilty, I'm innocent," but you needed some way to underline she really is innocent. This is not just talk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I thought the handkerchief was such a smart way to do it, but it was also so sad. And she's such a beautiful this woman who was don't know the actress's name, but she was ballerina, I think,
Mhm.
if that's correct. So graceful, and it really makes her seem innocent. Her dance is so much more virginal, I guess, if that's what we're supposed to be getting from it. It's
Mhm.
way less passionate and in your
Mhm.
face. Also interesting that all the murderesses murdered their men significant others who did them wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like women murder
He
for a
had
lot
it
of
coming.
reasons, not just that though.
Also, speaking of iconic, the line, some guys just can't hold their arsenic. Iconic.
Really? I'd never heard it
Which
before.
was my note. Iconic to me, I suppose. I love that line.
It is a good line, but just speaking about the quotes section, I wanted to quote every song because so many of the song lyrics are so clever.
Yeah.
They're well written. So you're saying this was all written by Bob Fosse?
The music and lyrics are by Kander and Ebb. So John Kander and Frank Ebb.
They're famous?
Yeah, they wrote. I should have some of their musicals.
Sorry, but
like
they're great.
Do you not have it memorized, Austin? Come on.
I
Aren't you the
should
musical
know
person?
more. I want to say Cabaret. I want to say they did Cabaret as well, which we will be getting to at some point. But yeah, no, they're very famous music and lyric combo. And
They
then
did
Bob
good.
Fosse
I was very
directed
impressed.
and choreographed.
So Bob Fosse was the one who had the concept for how all the visual numbers would look?
I think so, yeah. He directed and choreographed it, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with Bob Fosse, but this is maybe a good segue to talk a little bit about him. I'm sure you guys have heard the name, but if you're not familiar, the Fosse style is pretty easy to spot. It's very about isolated movements, moving together as a group, as one sort of thing. If you want to see some really iconic Fosse choreography, I suggest checking out Sweet Charity, The Pajama Game. You see a little bit of it in Cabaret as well, which we'll be getting to in the future. So there's a little bit of it here. The bowler hats at the end that they wear nowadays is definitely a tip off to Fosse. But yeah, that's kind of they kind of toned it down a little bit, so it's modernized, I guess, a little bit, but definitely still acknowledges its history. Jackie,
Awesome.
are you there?
Yeah, cool.
Sorry. I was just thinking about the bowler hats and I got lost in thought. I don't remember them. When were they wearing bowler hats?
Right at the end when they're
At the
doing
end.
it's called the Hot Honey Rag. Yeah, when they're doing their 2-person show.
Oh, for somehow I missed the hat, but I appreciate that it meant more than I understood.
There you go. Or at least I interpreted it as a nod to Fosse.
That makes sense.
So I actually want to talk about the director, Rob Marshall. Austin, you brought him up earlier because he's one of those directors that has a really interesting career trajectory to me. So he started as a Broadway choreographer, then he moved to TV and he did an adaptation of Annie, which is like Austin's fave, so it's appropriate. And then Chicago was...
Hold on, no! I will not let you discuss that.
So I meant Annie in general, not whatever this TV show version was.
It's, well, see, this is the debate, is do you prefer the 82 or the 98? I prefer the 82. The 98 one, it's got Alan Cumming, Kristen Chenoweth, Kathy Bates. I mean, it's a good cast, but it's not my cup of tea. Continue on.
Sorry, that was just a lot more passion for Annie than I expected, but I should have known. Anyway, Chicago was the first movie that he directed, and it's obviously like a huge hit. It's so well done. We've been raving about it for half an hour. But then he sort of was just never able to recapture that magic. The other films he's done since then include more musical adaptations. So he did the movie version of 9, which was critically panned. Into the Woods, which was like meh. He did Mary Poppins Returns a few years ago. He did one of the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. Like, he's just had a really lackluster career. And I was just wondering, I don't know, maybe Austin, you might know based on those musicals, because I'm not super familiar with all of them, like, was there a reason why he could never just recreate the Chicago magic again? Was this just like his one masterpiece and it's done? Like,
I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't. The only one out of that bunch that I've seen is the Into the Woods, which I didn't love. I was not a huge fan of it. I love that show, but the movie was a little bit lackluster. But I don't think I would chalk it up more to casting than to the direction of it. But yeah, I've heard that 9 is, I guess it was critically panned, but I've heard good things about it. So I don't know, maybe it's just luck of the draw. It's so weird because I feel like Chicago really set the stage for kind of the revival of the movie musical, you know? And it just never really got there.
Yeah.
It just must be so hard to take something from stage to screen, right? I mean, if you had new untapped kind of musical resources, if you could write one, if you could have someone who is so talented to write the music and you can make it specifically for a movie screen, it would be a lot easier. The idea of taking one from stage, putting it in screen, it seems like most of them fail. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a very delicate balance, I think, right? Of what do you keep, what do you add, what do you change, and there's different ways of doing it. And I think that Chicago kind of found that really sweet spot where they added a lot of dialogue to sort of make things make a little bit more sense, give it a little bit more flow, and that's fine. I think it flowed really well. Other movies like Rent, I love that show. It's one of the reasons that I started getting into musical theater was because of Rent. But the movie, it's disappointing because they took out a lot of the music, but they didn't change the dialogue. So they're basically talking the song lyrics, which is really awkward. So like that's not the way to do it. So I don't know what that magic ingredient is, but for me it's the sweet spot was Chicago.
Yeah, to me it makes the most sense because like you said before, you can't just have a giant musical number happening in the middle of the street in a movie. It doesn't make sense to have that level of surreal dance when it should be a character just walking down the street.
Right.
So the fact that they could explain all that away by it being inside her mind and her ideas of fame, it made sense again. So I think maybe most people are dumb like me and they need things to make sense. Because when they don't, it just removes you from the movie.
Totally. I think For my next pick, I think I might go with Cabaret because I think it'll be an interesting comparison to Chicago because the stage productions have similar feels where you're not really sure what's real. It kind of takes place in this like kind of gray zone of reality, and Cabaret approaches it from a very different way when in the movie. So maybe that'll be an interesting comparison.
I think I'm going to have problems with that already. I don't like this gray zone of reality business.
Well, no, we can get into it. I think it'll be an interesting comparison because Cabaret completely eliminates the gray zone.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. What else is there to talk about?
Can we talk about one of my favorite numbers aside from Cell Block Tango? We both reached for the gun when Richard Gere is kind of talking through Roxy, and so the bit is that she's a ventriloquist dummy sitting on his lap the whole time, and all the reporters are behind them like marionettes, and I think it's so cool.
It is cool, and Renee Zellweger is a great dummy. Like, she really does. I don't even mean that pejoratively. She just really collapses and moves in a really good way.
No, like, yeah. It sounds mean, but I know exactly what you mean. It's not an insult to her. It's actually complimentary that she's able to kind of be so loose in that scene and not kind of like be stiff or too much like she's moving on her own accord. She's really just flopping around like a dummy and letting him completely control her.
It's funny because I was watching some of the special features on the DVD today, and there's a VH1 behind the movies on the special features. So I was watching that, and there's an interview with Renee Zellweger, and she was talking about how she was so intimidated by that scene because she didn't want to screw up. Because it's like all these people doing flips in the air 20 feet above the ground and like, all this chaos happening behind her. And she was like petrified that they would have to be like, stop, we have to do that again. Renee looked the wrong way. Like,
and I bet she nailed it on the first take. I am actually, again, I'll reiterate, surprised at how much I liked Richard Gere in this movie because I generally find him scuzzy.
I think that works for him in this though.
Yeah, but it's so funny that when he's trying to be sincere, he comes off as more scuzzy. And when he's trying to be scuzzy, he's more likable. What does that say about me? I don't know.
I've never thought of Richard Gere as a scuzzy actor. That's just interesting.
Really? He just seems like he's very much actor. Like, I don't believe that he's ever a nice guy in movies. I'm trying to think of what even movies I've seen with him. Pretty Woman, he's gross. Runaway Bride, he's gross. What else is he in?
I haven't seen.
I gotta say,
those
are the two that came to mind. So,
right, scuzzbag. And then in Chicago, scuzzbag, but honest about it.
What did you guys think of the courtroom scene?
I love the circus metaphor.
Yeah,
it's so everything that happens where he's in that beautiful red sequin suit, amazing, and all the act, the spinning around, the part where he's actually in the circus was so great. It very much seems apropos and actually too real about how the quote-unquote criminal justice system works, especially when we're in this age of rich white men never getting having to do jail time or get found guilty for anything. It is a circus, and it is about who you pay, and it is about perception and how you control the media.
Well, so the media circus, right? Like it's kind of crazy to think that a play that was written in 1926 is still relevant. And like it's not a one-for-one kind of thing, but like the idea of us as consumers, us as the public, our obsession with fame and with celebrity culture and stuff. Like I think it's a similar. It wasn't a parallel I was expecting to see.
Yeah, and how fleeting it is and how fickle.
Yeah.
That's just been underlined in the social media age.
And like Jackie said too, I think it really, as much as it's criticizing tabloids and fame-hungry people, it also really is criticizing the criminal justice system, which is sadly still very relevant. And the whole thing is just a mess. Like each aspect of it is still relevant today,
It's sad. We should have come further, right? You'd expect
exactly.
To come further.
So anyway, guys, I'm going to go kill my husband and become famous.
Oh my God. Yes. Just make sure that you blame it on jazz and liquor. But the rest of the courtroom scene, do you mean about how Velma comes in, or what else were you wondering?
I was just general thoughts on it. I don't remember liking it as much as I did this time around. I've always liked it, but it like really jumped out at me this time. The going back and forth, the juxtaposition of what's happening in real life versus what's happening in the song, and then like Richard Gere's tap dance, which he I guess studied for like 3 months on to do, and kind of that build up to his kind of coup d'etat there.
His legal maneuvering I loved, found it very impressive, and having it while he's tap dancing, so clever. But I thought it was hilarious that in the end, he had planned the whole thing with the diary and everything.
Yeah.
The way they presented it was that he was having to do this off the top of his head, right? Like that's why it's a tap dance. It's improvisational, and he has to come up with some kind of way to spin it. But it was actually his plan all along. So I guess Richard Gere practiced for 3 months, and also Billy Flynn practiced.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Levels.
Thank you.
I also loved the little detail at the end or when Roxy's acquitted. There's the 2 versions of the newspaper. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, I thought that was really good.
I was going to say they waved the white flag again. It comes through again with the white handkerchief being innocent.
Oh, for innocent.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a really like practical thing for the newspaper. Have the story pre-written, the different headlines. Just wait and see which one you need to hand out. You're first on it. You're making that money.
Exactly. You got to be the first one with the story. We also get a Lucy Liu cameo in this movie.
Yes!
All she says is go to hell, like 10 times.
Iconic, again. But yeah, I totally forgot she was even in like this movie, that character even existed, because she's really only there for a minute. But yeah, I love it. Like, that's great casting yet again. Lucy Liu's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great. Everyone's great, you guys. This movie is great. I really don't have any criticism.
I have one little moment that I meant to talk about when we were talking about We Both Reached for the Gun. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a point where Roxy points her hand as the dummy. She points her hand and she kind of covers Billy's face, and he just like lowers her arm. It's like such a nice little moment because like he's really the center of attention here. Like, right? This is all about him. So I just think it's a really cool little moment. Anyway, that's just one of the notes that I had.
I think I missed that, but it sounds right. He's completely in charge. He's the one feeding her the story. I like when she even slips for a second and says, they're like, "Are you sorry?" She goes, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
And then he has to take control of it again because she obviously doesn't know what she's doing. It's clever.
So as we're talking about Richard Gere, interestingly, he's the only actor from the main cast that was not nominated for an Oscar.
Oh, really?
Oh. Yeah, did anyone win?
Catherine Zeta-Jones won, obviously, but she and Queen Latifah were both nominated for supporting. Renee Zellweger was nominated for lead, and John C. Reilly was also nominated for supporting. Richard Gere was the only one that didn't make the cut.
That's too bad, because
I would have put Richard Gere over John C. Reilly.
Oh, yeah. So Richard Gere and Renee Zellweger actually both won at the Golden Globes for lead actor and lead actress in a musical. And then, he didn't get nominated for the Oscar. She lost the Oscar. And then Catherine Zeta-Jones had lost the Golden Globe, but then won the Oscar. So I just thought that was an interesting little thing. So I guess each of them had their moments, but she just got the better one.
Was that Catherine Zeta-Jones' real hair?
I don't think so. I think it was a wig.
Respect.
I'm bad at picking out wigs, so.
I focus on the wrong thing when I watch a movie, clearly. I'm all about the hair.
I know she had long hair when they were preparing it, so I'm assuming, or like when they were rehearsing it, so I'm assuming it was a wig.
Wouldn't it be easier just to cut your hair than wear a wig every day?
But then you'd have to have that hair for a while.
Yeah, but that's the life of an actor.
It's terrible.
I don't know, I just feel like all that dancing, it'd be so hot to have all your real long hair up under a wig cap and then a wig over it.
I guess all we have to do is look at her at the Oscars that year and see how long her hair is.
That's true.
Yeah, well, the Oscars was probably like a year after filming, so she would have had time to grow it out.
I was actually surprised about the Oscars. So I know this movie came out in 2002, but I was reading or heard somewhere, maybe it was in that VH1 documentary, that it didn't get wide release until early 2003. So that would mean that it got nominated like right away, right? For the Oscars? Because if the Oscars are usually in February.
Yeah, so the Oscars, the way the rules work, because again, I'm an Oscars nerd, so I know this. If you're a limited release, and limited release means you're only opened in New York and LA, you're still eligible.
Okay.
So a lot of movies actually don't open wide. Like a lot of those Oscar bait movies, they go limited release in the fall. They do their run in New York and LA so that the Oscar voters can all go see them. And then they'll open wide across the country in like January or February.
Okay, so that sounds like that was probably what happened here.
Yeah.
Is that because movies are more generally seen in January and February?
I think it's a combination. I think usually stuff will open around Christmas and the holidays because that's when people will kind of go see movies. But then just in order to get an Oscar or be eligible for the Oscars, you basically have to be released in the fall in this really narrow window. So it's probably easier for them to kind of just do their limited release for the Oscars, and then not have to have their wild release and also be competing for box office with a million other movies, and kind of just pick another weekend for wide release and have a better chance at a box office.
Gotcha. Yeah, if all the Oscar movies came out on the same weekend,
yeah,
they wouldn't make very much
Oh,
money.
God.
Just a side note on the Oscars, I was rewatching clips of it on YouTube.
Wow.
And it was because I wanted to see Catherine Zeta-Jones' speech, and I also I remember there was a skit one year with John C. Reilly, and I thought it was this year, but it was another year, so it's not relevant. But anyway, so I watched when Chicago won and when Catherine Zeta-Jones won, and I watched the intro to the Oscars that year. And I've decided that this year, the 2003 Oscars, was sexual assault Oscars.
Oh, no.
Because it is. First of all, Harvey Weinstein was behind Chicago, and he was also behind Gangs of New York, which was also nominated. So he was in the crowd, and they were making jokes about him a lot, and not sexual assaulty jokes, but referencing Weinstein and cutting to him all the time. So that was gross. It's also the year that Roman Polanski won Best Director and got a standing ovation, so that's gross. And because Polanski did The Pianist, that means it's the same year that Adrian Brody won Best Actor and kissed Halle Berry on stage.
Oh, yeah.
And then
that was very unwelcome.
Yeah, we all thought that was a fun joke. And then a few years later, Halle Berry was like, hey, guess what I wasn't okay with?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the day.
Yeah. We're going to erase those from existence, yes?
Yeah.
Goodbye, those Oscars.
So that was all gross. But then, the Chicago stuff was fine. They were fun. Catherine Zeta-Jones did a very short speech.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Classy.
Oh, and Sean Connery gave it to her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, everyone's favorite, magic Alcatraz escape artist.
Also, he was in a movie with her, so.
Yes.
What was that movie called? Entrapment or something?
Yeah.
For a second, I was like, aren't they married? But then I was like, no, she married the other old dude. Michael Douglas.
Yes.
Okay. You guys. Yeah. This movie was great. I don't even have anything bad to say. We're going to have some real hard time finding a low point.
Yeah, do we want to get into our high points and low points?
Sure. Yeah, I struggled with a low point as well, so I'm just going to have to say the fact that it's a Miramax film. And I feel like that's going to come up regularly, so just it is what it is. Yeah, that's my low point. High point, I think we both reached for the gun is my high point. And just Catherine Zeta-Jones in general, and then we both reached for the gun. Those are the two things that make this movie for me.
Nice. My high point, surprisingly, because I would have thought it would be a Catherine Zeta-Jones moment, but I really love the scene where Roxy is singing in a pitch black stage, and then mirrors kind of come around her and move around her.
Yeah.
And she dances up to a mirror, and then it's gone. That was so cool. I enjoyed all of that. And at the same time, I was thinking how hard it must have been to not have cameras show in the mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
And how hard it would be for Renee Zellweger to have to look at herself while she's acting as Roxy Hart. I just think that's very intimidating.
Yeah.
But I loved it was visually gorgeous. And then she's wearing that really awesome sparkly silver jumpsuit. I was just loved it. It was beautiful. And she did it well.
I love how the musical numbers in here are so theatrical. They didn't shy away because it was in her imagination, right? They could go all out. So I love that they went all
absolutely.
out.
Yeah, they went for it. My low point was the only thing I could come up with was that I wanted more Mama. I wanted more Queen Latifah. I wanted her to have more singing. She's great. I think she could have done a lot more singing, even though probably in the actual stage production, the Mama characters doesn't have very much to sing, but if they cut out Queen Latifah numbers, they shouldn't have.
Well, they did, sadly. There's a song called Class. It's Mama and Velma when they're listening to the trial over the radio, and Velma's getting all upset because Roxy's using all of her parts that she wanted to use. There's a song called Class where they reminisce about the good old days when people had class, and it is on the DVD extras, but it's a good song.
Do they have a whole choreographed scene between them?
I don't think so. I think it's a pretty low-key number. it's been a while since I watched it, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it may have actually ended up being the only song that wasn't, because it wouldn't have been in Roxy's Imagination. So that's kind of my guess as to why it got cut, because it would have been like actually happening in real life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I guess my high points are A, Catherine Zeta-Jones, because I think she's just fantastic in this. And then B, Cell Block Tango. I just think that's such a well done scene. I think the choreography is awesome. I think it's just such a highlight for me. And then my low point is, other than the Weinstein of it all, would probably be towards the beginning. There's like an exterior shot, and obviously this was mostly filmed in Toronto, actually, down at the Distillery District, but they had some kind of CGI making it look even more old-timey, and I felt that didn't quite hold up and looked pretty fake.
Oh, is that
That's
the
so
part
funny.
When Roxy and Fred Casely are like running down the street?
Yeah.
I totally noticed that too. And also when they're showing exterior jail shots, it was pretty obviously terrible CGI.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. Did you guys recognize any parts of Toronto?
I knew that some of those scenes were from the Distillery District. Like, I knew that going in, so I could kind of tell, like, oh yeah, that's that kind of area. But when I looked it up, I saw other parts of the city were used, like some of the interiors for like different old buildings around Toronto, and I didn't recognize any of that.
Yeah, I was trying to think. There's not a whole lot of exterior shots in the movie, right?
No, not a ton. There's like the exterior of like the jailhouse and the courtroom, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to look closer. I didn't realize it was filmed in Toronto until today, so have to watch it again, I guess. Too bad.
Shucks a Rooney. Quotes. You guys, quotes. I will say this movie is a smorgasbord for hilarious 20s slang. I didn't really want to quote any of it because it's just these isolated moments that are so perfect, but I loved the way they spoke, the tone they took when they were saying these 20s insanely absurd sentences. I loved it. I gotta say, listening to people talk fast in 20s lingo is my jam. So, quotes. Well, again, I'll mention I really wanted to quote all the songs. There's so many clever moments in the songs, but I decided not to. The one thing I did say was when Velma goes, she'd say, "What's your sister like?" I'd say, "Men." Boom! Perfect. And then there's one moment when Catherine Zeta-Jones sings this she sings it so perfectly, and she's like scream singing, "I'm no one's wife, but oh, I love my life." Yes. And I was like, girl, get it. Yes, represent. It's so strong. I love that. And then she says also, "I can't go anywhere without hearing about that dumb tomato." And I laughed out loud. I was like, did she just call her a tomato? And I don't know what exactly the context is in the 20s. Like, was tomato a particularly cheap fruit? But I love that she called her a tomato. And then one of the best lines I thought was a Taye Diggs line where he goes, "Miss Velma Kelly in an act of desperation." Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, that's
and harsh. Those are the quotes I chose. Boom.
Love it. So for trivia, I've kind of been saying a lot of my trivia as we go, and a lot of it I really wanted to compare it to the stage show, just because I wasn't as familiar with it. So I guess I had a lot of information off the top there that wasn't particularly interesting to normal people, but was to me.
Normal. We're normals.
Yeah. The budget for this movie was $45 million, and it grossed over 170 million domestic and 306 million worldwide. So it did pretty darn good. And as Jen said, it was nominated for a lot of awards. It won a lot of awards. Rob Marshall was originally brought in to do Rent. I guess they were thinking of doing the film version of Rent much earlier. But at that meeting, I guess he said that he wanted to do Chicago, pitched his Roxy's Imagination idea, and it kind of went from there. And now I'm really bummed that Rob Marshall didn't do Rent, because that could have been a lot better. This movie, Chicago, was cited as one of the movies that was responsible for prompting the MPAA to include smoking in their film certification. And that didn't happen until 2007, but apparently, yeah, this movie, because so many of the characters are smoking constantly, it prompted the MPAA to include smoking.
Good. Although they made it look really cool, so, I can
I know.
understand why.
Yeah.
There was that one dancer who was doing, I think it was at the beginning of All I Care About Is Love, when they're all saying, like, we want Billy, give us Billy. And she just has a cigarette drooping out of her mouth.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm wondering actually if that was also a nod to Fosse, because he was notorious for smoking constantly, and like he would do these like crazy dance numbers with like a cigarette hanging out of his mouth as he was like choreographing, and somehow managed to not have the ash fall everywhere. So I wonder if that was a nod to Bob Fosse.
That's hilarious because I noticed that, and my immediate thought was, that's got to be really hard to dance with that thing hanging out of your mouth.
Yeah. Oh, towards the beginning, whenever Roxy arrives at the jail, she like walks into that room with a bunch of other women, sits down, and there's a woman next to her. I forget what she says now, but that woman is Cheetah Rivera, who was the original Velma.
Oh, I remember her. She had very heavy eye makeup on.
Yes, yeah.
That's so cool. What a nice little nod.
Yeah, I think since you guys both liked this movie, I'm going to send you guys a couple of videos of the original cast dancing, just so you can compare it, because it's very cool.
I love how excited you are that we both liked this, because that's exactly how I felt when you guys both liked Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, I could not believe my luck, and I was like, oh, maybe I can get them to watch the sequels.
I wonder what that feeling is like.
You'll get there, Jackie.
I don't think so, you guys. I only want to watch movies about Marines exploding aliens, so I don't think so.
I have one other little tidbit, and this is a pew 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 guess numbers.
Oh my god, yes.
Please
I
tell
can't
me
wait to guess numbers.
Keeping that intro for guess numbers every time.
That's it. Forever.
Absolutely. And for Jackie for quotes, it's quotes, quotes, quotes.
Quotes, quotes, quotes.
Okay. So it cost Amos $5,000 for Billy Flynn to take Roxy's case. Would anyone like to guess what $5,000 in 1926 money is worth in 2020?
Ooh. I'm going to give it a 45,000.
I was going to say 60,000.
71,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
Ooshna magoosh. And Billy got it times 2 because he got Velma off in the same trial. Well done, sir.
And Amos is only a mechanic. He can't afford that.
I know. How did he pay for it? Poor Amos.
Oh, he really got completely screwed over.
So screwed. Although they do have a scene where they're working out the finances, and he basically says, you can take like $20 off my paycheck every week for the rest of my life.
I know. So sad.
I think Billy just takes it, not expecting to get paid, except for in publicity. But who knows?
That's very possible.
They're probably at the end of it have people with a Roxy fund when she's at the height of her fame. So there's money. She pays them.
And it's you see Billy keeps getting all these like high profile rich clients. So yeah, I don't think he's hurting for cash. So maybe he took that grand or whatever from Amos and didn't actually collect on his paycheck for the next 40 years.
Amos.
The only other thing, and this is not trivia of the movie, this is trivia of my life. I do remember watching.
Sorry, is trivia of my life a category now?
It is now. Well, it didn't come up naturally in conversation, so I'm throwing it in now.
All right, throw it.
When I was a kid, well, I don't know, preteen, I don't know. When I was watching this, I made myself learn the choreography to I Just Can't Do It Alone. So that was fun.
Wow.
I remember like watching, and I did it for Nowadays and the Hot Honey Rag at the end as well. But specifically, I Just Can't Do It Alone. I remember watching that over and over and over in my basement, like learning it.
Can you do that part where she's on the chair?
I can't remember doing it, but I mean, I must have tried. Not saying I did it well, but I did it.
Respect.
Yeah, and there was that part where she has like her hands moving in every direction, like in a really complicated pattern. I don't know if you remember that, but that was really hard. But I do remember learning it at some point, and I did that with the rag at the end too. So I was a super cool kid. I don't know about you guys.
It sounds cool. I'm believing that you are cool.
You were the coolest.
Thank you. Jen, what other movies came out that year? We kind of touched on it.
Yeah, Jen, what's your
bit.
sound?
Yeah, I don't think I have a fun intro for movies of 2002. Like
it should be like a newscast, like this year in movies, like that.
Yeah, Jen, just go off the cuff right now. Go.
Oh no, Jackie already did it. We'll just play that.
No, you've got to do it. We need to do our own.
So anyway, movies that came out in 2002. So I think this might be a year that we come back to, because there's a couple of good movies that came out, a couple not so good movies that came out that are on our lists. For example, Scooby-Doo, Austin, I know it's a big fave for you.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
God.
Yeah,
Sweet
we'll be
Lord.
revisiting.
And then over
Ouch.
in my world, 2002 had the American version of The Ring,
Fuck.
the Japanese version of The Grudge, Ju-on, and then
boy.
28 Days Later, which is like one of my favorite zombie movies. And then in other general movie world news, Signs came out that year, Minority Report, 8 Mile, and then as I mentioned, like a lot of Oscar movies that year were Gangs of New York, The Pianist, and The Hours with Nicole Kidman.
Ooh, that's a good
Wow.
one.
So there's no movies for me that year.
I thought maybe Minority Report would have been
Yeah.
one for you.
Never seen it.
Wow. I mean, I haven't either, but that's not surprising for me.
Are there Marines in it? That's my question.
I'm gonna double check for you right now.
No, it's okay. You know what? I'm cool. I got enough Marine movies. I'll try and branch out.
It's in the future, and they're kind of cops, so I don't know if that does anything for you, Jackie.
I do like Future Cops. I'm in.
Okay.
Demolition Man, one of the best movies of all time.
Are we watching Demolition Man at one point?
We friggin' better well.
Okay, good.
Jackie should add it to the database.
Will do. Beep, boop, beep. This is my computer noise. Click, clack, and clack. I don't know why I'm into noises today, but that's it.
Jackie's new role is our sound effects, like maestro.
As long as you expect real bad work
Yeah.
and similar noises every time. Beep, boop,
Like
beep.
our Foley
doot,
artist.
Yes.
Oh, man. Oh, this was a joy. Let's talk about ratings.
Yes.
Let's.
Who would
I'm
like to
gonna
go
go first.
Yes.
I'm right, jumping right in. Jackie, go. This one, it gets 10s across the board.
Yes.
I
Wow.
enjoyed the crap out of it. I've been singing the songs for 2 days. It was one of the most visually cool, beautiful movies ever. I loved the costumes. I loved the set. I loved the dancing. I loved the hair, mostly. I loved all of it. Everything was so, it grabbed your eye so hard. The set design, I thought, was perfect in every way. The only thing I had a problem with the set design was I didn't understand when she was in Mama's bathroom how where the door was that she was listening through. Because at first it looked like she was looking behind the mirror, and I'm like, is there a hole behind the mirror into Mama's office? Anyway, that might have been my own problem. That was the only thing that didn't make sense to me. But other than that, I thought that every part of it was so good. I just wanted to watch it. I wanted to see the colors and I wanted to listen to the music. So 10 and 10, quality and enjoyment. Boom.
Amazing.
Wow. Now I feel like pressured to also give 10s because, like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, there's no flaw that I can point out. So quality wise, it's definitely a 10. But then I'm like, was my enjoyment a 10? I want to say yes, but then I feel like that's going to skew the ratings for future films.
Go with your gut, Jen. It's all about gut decisions.
I don't know. I like to overthink things, guys. So I'm like, if this is a 10, then how could, say, for example, my next pick also be a 10? Like, I don't know. So I will say, quality-wise, this is definitely a 10. Like, I think it's an incredibly well-made movie, well-acted, well-choreographed, looks fantastic. Enjoyment, yeah, I'm going to have to give it a 10. Like, I fully enjoyed this movie. Damn it, Austin, you made me give a 10 to a musical.
You guys have no idea how happy I am. I might
You've
cry.
broken Jen's entire belief system. It's just shattered.
Throwing
It's
my
all
laptop
downhill
out.
from here, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I didn't give it all 10s?
You were like, this is a
Austin.
3.
No, 10s across the board. I love it. I think it's so good. I don't know why it's not. I don't know why I never remember it as one of my favorite movies. I think it is one of my favorite movies. It's so good. And like I said, best movie musical. Want to adapt a musical? Look to Chicago. It's amazing. 10s and 10s.
Agreed.
Nice.
Well done. Nice.
Well, that's the first time that's happened. Probably the last.
Such a positive experience.
I know, I'm like, this feels so weird. We all liked it.
Yeah, you're not eviscerating me with your bare hands and ripping apart.
I think we really needed this after last week. So
I did. It hurt. It hurt so bad.
we needed to bring it up a little, so that's good.
Oh, well,
It
then
really did.
I'm excited to bring it crashing right back down next week.
Yeah, why don't you
Oh.
tell us what we're doing?
So next week, we're going to watch one of my all-time favorite movies, which is Battle Royale.
I wish you could see the expression on my face because it is just dread. It is dread, 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 dread. I'm so nervous about this.
I don't expect either of you guys to like it, but I love it so much, and we'll talk about it. We'll get into it.
Oh, we're gonna get into it. Think there's gonna be lots to say.
It'll be good. I'm excited. That's a lie, but it's gonna be fine.
It'll be okay.
So I think that about wraps it up for Chicago. This was such a shock. I'm so happy. Next week we'll be talking about Battle Royale, like Jen said, and in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. And thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.
On that a little bit.
Hello?
The bowler hats at the end that they wear in the Hot Honey Rag, that's definitely a nod to Bob Fosse because he was all about the hats. So this movie, again, was just really able to kind of pick apart what they needed and play homage to the original but still offer something new and make it appealing to everyone. Yeah, that's kind of what I got to say on that.
Live. Guys.
Just quickly, is Jackie still there? Because she's gone from my Zencaster.
Hello? What?
Oh, she's gone blue.
What's happening?
Or like a light blue.
Yeah.
I am so inarticulate today. Jesus Christ.
Guys?
It's still recording though, which is weird.
Yeah, but I don't see her talking.